It is unacceptable that they use their power to keep us voiceless. Those that have gone before us say no more.
People actually say they're gonna kill our children. They're trying to get inside of your head.
What happens when a man stands up, says enough is enough?
We built the path as we came, rock by rock.
Well, I mean, to play those kings, it's a pretty good role. But in all honesty, the entry point for me was my faith, really, as a Christian. I have 4 children myself, as Dr. King did, and the fact that, you know, he wasn't just a talker of the word, but a doer of the word, I think is an incredible thing. You know, we know him for his oratory, we know him for being a man of God, being a preacher, but there are a lot of Christians, there are a lot of us who talk about the gospel, talk about our faith, talk about what we've heard in sermons, to actually walk out the idea of sacrificial love for 13 years, which he did from the age of 26 to 39 when he was assassinated, is an incredibly powerful thing. I mean, his wife, his children's lives were under threat every single day, and yet he continued to do what he felt God called him to do. That's something I admire hugely. It's something I aspire to in my own life, and so to see that displayed cinematically is, I think, very meaningful.
David, I've recently just been certified for cultural intelligence. Here you are, a British born to Nigerian parents, taking an American role, have a very high cultural intelligence to be able to pull that through. Just take us into the processes you went through to be able to do this.
Cultural intelligence, are you a spy? Should we be talking in public?
What that means is about cross-cultural interaction.
Okay.
High CQ,
right.
IQ, EQ, and cultural intelligence.
Wow.
Cross-cultural.
I don't know.
As a British Nigerian, you know, crossing culture.
I just want to go around saying I have cultural intelligence. I just like the sound of that. For me, I was born in the UK, but I lived 7 years of my life in Nigeria. From the age of 6 to 13, I lived in Lagos, and now I've lived in America for almost 8 years now. And so those are very, very different cultures in which to live as a black man. Nigeria being very formative for me because it's been a hugely precious experience for me to live in a country where I was not a minority. It eroded any residue of a minority mentality from me. So I culturally now feel able, having experienced living in a country where you can't tell Nigerians nothing. I mean, like, literally, if you are poor and on the streets, I am a king. What are you going to tell me? So, to live in a culture where that is a truism, and to carry that in cultures in Europe and America where racism is real, marginalization on the basis of color is real, but like Dr. King, somehow to not have the bitterness or the anger that makes that a self-fulfilling prophecy, that means, it's what I call the Sidney Poitier syndrome. He achieved what he did the way he did at the time he did because he grew up in a culture where he wasn't a minority. So when he went to America and anyone said to him, no, we're not going to give you that opportunity, he was like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to ask you for it, I'm going to take it. And that's why he achieved what he did when he did. And so, from a cultural intelligence point of view, in terms of playing an African American who transcended anger and bitterness and was effective because he knew from God that he was equal to every man, because that's how God saw him.
That's right.
So therefore, that's how he saw the world, and that's therefore what he campaigned for.
I would like to just ask, what was it like to act out such important moment in history? What was it like?
It was a heavy burden, is the truth of the matter. Because acting out historical moments was one thing. The thing that really stayed with me was having entered into this endeavor to feel momentarily, I'm an actor, I'm not Dr. King, but to feel momentarily, because you have to place yourself emotionally into his shoes, and to feel the weight of what that must have felt like, even if it was for two or 3 months, to be on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the actual bridge where these events took place, where Bloody Sunday took place, which you're about to see, with some of the people who engaged in that march, to give a speech on the Capitol steps, where he was told if he gives that speech, he will be assassinated, and he gave it anyway. To give that speech at the very same pulpit from which he gave that speech from. The pulpit, you'll see in the film, was found 2 days before we went there to shoot, and was offered to us. It hadn't been used for decades. Hey!
I said he robbed him.
Where's my former t-shirt? Oh my goodness! That's really weird. Okay, now I suddenly feel like I need to straighten my tie. I know, my t-shirt. Wow, amazing to see you. That's probably, I have no idea what I was talking about. But yes, it was, that was the thing for me, was just how humbling it was to feel the weight of what it must have been like, and to know that I'm entering it only momentarily, and to know that I couldn't have done what he did.
Thank you. How key is it for people in the US and here in the UK to learn about the past and understand what rights were fought for back in 1965?
It's incredibly important for all of us. I think when you look at what's going on in America right now, you look at Ferguson, you look at what just happened with Arizona, you see these protests that are going on. I think if you were born after 1965 and didn't necessarily know about Selma, you may think we are in a new day. You may think that this is new. Well, when you see Selma now, you'll see that there are images you're about to see that are very evocative of what's just going on in America right now. In Selma, one of the strategies employed was to go into places where racism was very real, make sure the press was present, have them provoked to action in front of the camera to, do what they do behind closed doors for the world to see, and amplify that to the world and say, we need help. That's what happened at Bloody Sunday. 70 million people in America saw those images, and they made their voices heard, and within months of seeing those images, the law was changed. Recently, we saw Eric Garner killed on screen. You think that those images are going to have the same effect? They didn't. That man wasn't even indicted. And so, to sink into a kind of apathy that governmentally things are just going to be all right, it's just a lie. We as the people need to have our voices heard, and you will see in Selma that was done in a very strategic, intelligent, articulate way, and that's something that we just need to continue to do.
Thank you. David, is there a call to action for people who watch this film? What impact do you want it to have?
I think the danger with a film like this is to think that we all have to go out and be Dr. King. He was... why are you laughing? Well, you don't want to be Dr. King? No, he was a once-in-a-generation individual, like Mandela, like Gandhi. But what his life shows, and you'll see when you see the film, one of my biggest jobs was to show that he was a human being, not a saint. Even though we have deified him because of what he did, he didn't walk on this earth thinking of himself as an icon. And certainly he had weaknesses, he had times where he was unsure. He made sure he surrounded himself with people who he could rely on because he was a human being. But he did it anyway. And I think that within our own families, within our own communities, to exhibit sacrificial love truly, is one of the most powerful, healing, nourishing things each and every one of us can do. And I think cumulatively, to a certain degree, Dr. King's dream will be realized if indeed we do that.
This cell is probably bugged. It probably is.
We must march. We must stand up.
You march those people into rural Alabama, it's got to be open season.
May I have a word?
There's no word to be had.
The people